Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Unity of Stockton. We're still virtual. One more Sunday of virtual. Then the following Sunday, July 18th, will be our first in person. We're also planning a get together. Your events committee met, and we're planning a picnic on August 21st, celebrating our 90th anniversary. So stay tuned for more details on that. I'm going to go ahead and read our daily word. So if you want to get a little quiet and centered and comfortable in your chair, the word for today is freedom. In thought, word, and action, I celebrate my freedom. There are many ways to feel free. I may work hard to be financially free. I may plan trips so I can freely explore the world. I may commit to learning for intellectual freedom, or exercise my body for greater freedom of movement. Even as I do my work in the world to know freedom, I remember that I am always free at the level of spirit. No situation or circumstance has power over me. Every day and in every area of my life, I live from my divine nature, where I am wholly and completely free. Through my inner powers of understanding and faith, I recognize and embrace empowering beliefs. My spiritual gifts of strength and release keep me on course and help me free myself from habits that derail my spiritual growth. Through God within, I am grateful to be free. For freedom, Christ has set us free. Galatians 5:1. It's our special treat this morning to have Reverend Herklotz as our guest speaker. She has been involved with Unity for over 10 years and is recently graduated and ordained from Unity Worldwide Ministries Institute. After completing her bachelor's degree in psychology, she spent many years living in a spiritual community based on A Course in Miracles, as she has working in large corporations. It has provided a very well-rounded experience of life. After years of exploring and experiencing spiritual practices from a variety of faith traditions, when Lisa found Unity, she knew where she belonged. She, along with her husband, Reverend Jim, look forward to being part of the evolutionary growth within Unity and within our world. Reverend Lisa.
Thank you, Susan.
Very good. Now we're going to be singing Morning Has Broken. So let me get us started there. Give me a moment. All right, so this is one of my favorite songs. I thought it'd be a great song to start with this morning. Everyone can hear my keyboard? What's going to happen is you're all going to be on mute, so go ahead and mute yourself if you're not already, and you can sing along with the words in front of you. Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word. We're going to repeat that first verse. Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the wood. Sweet the rain's new fall, sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where his feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light Eden saw play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day. All right, we're going to move on to oneness. So this one.
Billy, Lisa's going to step in with the opening prayer.
Oh, my apologies. Let's have opening prayer. Great.
Thank you. Thank you, Billy. So I'd like to invite you all now to just gently close your eyes. Sit back for a moment. And I invite you to join me in this moment of prayer. Turning within, we affirm the living, loving presence of Spirit as our own essence and divine foundation. We let the light and love of that presence shine forth through our hearts and minds and bodies, and have it resound in our words and our actions. We gratefully acknowledge the power of freedom to express our divinity in such a rich array of diversity, while celebrating our oneness, our interconnectedness, our wholeness, and our holiness. As we celebrate the 4th of July, we bless this country, this great experiment in a free democracy. We recognize and seek to transform the shortfalls and the errors as we envision the manifestation of true liberation and freedom for all, as we continue to evolve individually and as a nation and as a global community. In the name and the power of the Christ presence within us all, I say thank you, thank you, thank you, and so it is. Amen and namaste.
Now Billy's going to take us back into song with oneness.
Okay. If you don't know the song, listen to the first verse and reflect on the words, and then come on in on the second verse. Again, we're all muted so we can hear together on Zoom. Next week, though, starting in 2 weeks, we'll all be together, so we don't need to be muted anymore. I now let go. There's nothing to fear. I now let go. There's nothing to fear. I now let go. There's nothing to fear. I now let go. I now let go. There's nothing to fear. Let's do that again. I now let go. I now let go. there's nothing to fear. I now let go, there's nothing to fear. I now let go, there's nothing to fear. I now let go, I now let go, there's nothing to fear. I realize there's only one power. 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 I realize I'm one with the one. 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 I realize I'm one with the one.
Thank you, Billy. What a beautiful way to enter into a time of meditation. So I invite you now to just once again sit back. Just take a nice cleansing deep breath in. And on a nice slow exhale, feel yourself become just a little more centered and present, right where you are, right in this moment, just as it is. As we take this very precious time to turn within and go a little deeper in touch with that beautiful spiritual presence, which is our essence. Let your thoughts just settle and turn your attention to your heart center. Feeling the light energy that is the love of God within. Just take a moment to focus on the presence of light and love. Then imagine individuals you are close to, individuals you know well. Just picture them for a moment and see that same bright light of love shining in their hearts and on their faces, recognizing it is the same God light as within you. And now, if you will, take a moment to imagine someone you don't know very well, maybe someone you just pass in a grocery store, or someone at the checkout counter, or someone you may see occasionally, but you don't really know them. See them in your mind for a moment with that same light shining within their hearts and shining on their face. The same God light that is within you and me. And now imagine someone perhaps you are feeling challenged with. Somebody, maybe you have struggled with this person for years. Maybe it's a new challenge. Bring that person to mind. See them clearly. However it is they make you feel, or they didn't really make you feel, but how you do feel when you're in their presence. And then see that same bright God light shining in their hearts and on their face. The same light that is within you. And finally, see this light shining throughout the planet, touching each and every living thing, glowing in the recognition of our divine source, and celebrating the incredible and unique expressions in the worldly form. And hold that vision as we go into the silence for a moment. And then very gently, bring your attention back to your own heart center once more. As we affirm together that freedom is living from the recognition of the same beautiful divine light living and expressing in each and every living being. And truly, there is nothing to fear. And once again, focusing on your breath. When you feel ready, gently open your eyes as we come back together. I say namaste.
Kelly, you're muted.
I'm sorry, you all. Let's try this again.
It's okay.
I can hear you now.
Good, thank you. God and I are one. and I are one. God is love, then I must be loving. I let the love of God flow through me now, and I am healed. Sing along with me. God and I are one. God and I are one. God is love, then I must be loving. I let the love of God flow through me now, and I am healed. God and I are one. God and I are one. God and I are one. God is life, then I must be living. I let the life of God flow through me now, and I am healed. God and I are one. God and I are one. God is faith, then I must be faithful. I let the faith of God flow through me now, and I am healed. God and I are one. God and I are one. God is peace, then I must be peaceful. I let the peace of God flow through me now, and I am healed. God and I are one. God and I are one. God and I are one. Back to God is love. God is love, then I must be loving. I let the love of God flow through me now, and I am healed. God and I are one. Last time. God and I are one. God and I are one. And apologies for the PowerPoint issues, but we worked it out. It's okay. Getting used to doing this music on Zoom, it's different.
It's all working out. It's all working out. Thank you. Thank you, Susan, and thank you, Billy, both for putting all your efforts and energy and service into bringing this service together with all these new pieces. It's been an evolution for everyone, and I just think you're doing an awesome job. Well, good morning, Unity of Stockton. As Susan mentioned, my name is Reverend Lisa Herklotz, and I'm really delighted to have an opportunity to share a Sunday message with you, especially on the 4th of July. I'm happy to see there's actually people here. We figure everyone's out and doing their picnics and celebrations. Hopefully, after this service, you all have some wonderful plans to celebrate in whatever way works for you and is enjoyable. Because it is the 4th of July, you know, the idea of independence was really on my mind. And I started to think a lot about how that idea of independence has shown up in my own life and also how it is played out in our country. And I'm going to share some of my musings with you today. One of the first things I did was go back and I read the Declaration of Independence. Not the whole thing, I just kind of read the first part and just was amazed at how powerful the words and statements were written down in that document and signed and shared by those founders. And what occurred to me is, because we know in unity that words have power, words and thoughts have power, and these words have been the part of our founding of this nation, this new experiment in democracy. And in an experiment it was and still is. We are still evolving and growing and changing. But I realized that these words that were spoken about the inherent equality of everyone and the inalienable rights endowed upon us by our Creator. I understand that at that time, perhaps the consciousness wasn't quite ready to actually manifest the magnitude of those words, because those words are huge. But we see through our history, we haven't quite gotten there yet to really manifest the vision of that sense of equality and freedom for everyone. And so I started thinking about the word independent. And I realized that independence is really just one step in this evolutionary process. It's not really the end. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about what I mean. And this is good news, because understand that where we are in our country, there's such a huge push now to evolve beyond where we have been. And rightly so. That is an evolutionary step we need to make, not just as a country, but as individuals and even as a global community, because indeed we are becoming a global community. So let me start by talking to you a little bit about the idea of, in psychology, there are 3 phases to human maturity. So as you mature as a human being, there's 3 very distinct phases. The first one is dependence, right? So you're a baby, you're born, you're completely dependent on someone else to care for you, and to take care of you and to give you what you need. And this is a natural state of a newborn and a small child. And if somebody takes care of it, then that child thrives. And if someone does not take care of it, that child is deprived. But the second stage of maturity is to develop a sense of independence. So we go from a state of dependence to a phase of independence. And if any of you are parents and you have kids who have gone through adolescence, teenage, and young adult years, you know this phase very well. Well, let's face it, all of us have gone through it ourselves. And if you think back of what that phase was like, you'll remember how important it was to find yourself, to be able to define yourself apart from your family and apart from being that dependent child. And this becomes a very important step in maturing into an adult. Now, if this phase goes well, then the traits that you create as an independent adult are being able to take responsibility, make sound decisions, and to develop self-reliance, right? You can make good life decisions for yourself, and you have become reliant upon yourself to thrive in your life. A very important stage. And yet that's not really the end of it. There's another phase, a third phase of maturing as a human being, and that's interdependence. And this fascinated me because I'd heard this before. I was a psych major, so I remember hearing it back then. That was years and years ago. That what this means is that as an independent adult, you choose to start caring and have concern for ever widening circles of groups of people. So it's no longer just about you. It's about you and your family, maybe you and your neighborhood, you and your work group, or you and your spiritual community. But there's something even more important about just sharing a concern with a greater number of people. It's no longer just I, you move out of the I phase. It's recognizing that that people and the social system within which we exist are mutually dependent. Like we actually need each other. We're social beings, and we need that connection with other people to truly have a thriving life. And not only that, but we need the work of others. And if you think about it, we need the work that others do to make our lives better and to work. So this is a level of awareness. It's a recognition. And it's a very important step from independence into interdependence. Now, it was interesting to note that only independent people can move to a state of interdependence. You can't go from being dependent into interdependence. And the reason I think this is important to understand is the phase of interdependence depends on, it's kind of funny, depends on everybody being a contributor, right? Everyone that comes into this system of interdependence, they're contributing their skills, their talents, their nature of who they are for the greater good of all. And that's how we as individually we thrive. So dependence to independence to interdependence. Now, I took this idea and I started to think, okay, what happens if you never mature, if we have somebody who never matures out of the stage of dependence? Well, if a person doesn't move mature into independence, then they probably never will leave home. They would not be able to make good life choices because they're dependent on someone else to provide them with their needs. And whatever relationships they do create, they're probably going to be pretty unhealthy and on the more extreme side abusive, because they're completely dependent on other people to be who they are. So all of us have grown out of that stage. And one of the things I want to mention here is that these are not absolute phases. So it's not like you're dependent and then suddenly you're independent and then suddenly you're interdependent. There's an evolution of maturation that happens through these. And sometimes we become very independent in some areas of our life and we're still a little dependent in other areas. And as we continue to evolve, we get the whole of ourselves to move through those stages. And there's many of you, I'm sure, who have had an experience of interdependence, of recognizing that you are a part of a greater whole that you impact, affect, and are part of, but still live a very independent life. So what happens now if we never mature out of the stage of independence, if we don't move into a recognition of interdependence? Well, what happens if you stay there too long is you stay too I-centered. You don't, it becomes a place that's very selfish. It moves into a stage of competitiveness, of divisiveness. There's no real connection to others. There doesn't develop within that person a sense of empathy or compassion because they're living for themselves. That's what that independent stage is. At the very extreme of this stage would be narcissism and eventual self-destruction, because this stage would eventually self-destruct because there's no connection to anything else. So I kind of looked at that in our world situation and I thought, wow, this country was so built on the idea of rugged individualism and being very independent. And that was a very necessary stage. There was nothing wrong with that. But if we stay too long in that, the system starts to implode on itself. So I read something from Dr. Bruce Lipton, he is a scientist in mind-body biology. He did an interview with Katie Kuntz in our Unity magazine, and he wrote this: humans have essentially hit the wall. We can no longer live on Earth the way we have been living. Humankind will either evolve or face extinction. With all our divided families, communities, states, and countries, we have not only separated people from one another, but our way of life also encourages competition and fighting. So being a mind-body scientist, he refers back to the body. If cells start fighting each other in a cellular community, biologists would call that an autoimmune disease, a state of self-destruction. So I just want to take a moment. I mean, this is kind of a negative perspective, but I think it's important to understand how critical the evolutionary state we're in is, and how important we play our role in that as individuals, but also in support of our communities. So I have another analogy for you to kind of picture this. Imagine you're with a group of people on a boat out to sea, and some person takes a drill and starts drilling a hole under their seat through the bottom of the boat. Well, of course, you can imagine everybody's going, wait a minute, what the heck are you doing? And that person turns around and says, well, what concern is it of yours? I'm drilling under my seat. I have the freedom to do that. Not a very happy picture, I know, but I thought it was very powerful, because it's a great way to recognize how interconnected we are. And even in our state of independence, what we choose to do impacts everything. And that's the recognition of interdependence. So once again, independence, it was a necessary step in our evolution, but it's also served its purpose. And we don't want to stay there. We want to grow in our awareness of our interconnectedness and our oneness and our wholeness, and how important that is to individually thrive, but also to thrive as a single body of Christ. Paul in Corinthians talked about how we are all individual members of the body of Christ, but it's still one body of Christ. Charles Fillmore, who's co-founder of Unity, wrote that where man seeks to retain more than he can use, he causes not only disease or lack of ease in his own being, but also upsets the balance for the rest of creation. All humanity are members of one body and therefore interdependent. So, this is a really important idea, I believe. And I just looked at it from more of a kind of human worldly perspective, but looking at it from a unity perspective, from a spiritual evolutionary state, it's not a new idea. If you've been at Unity, then you know, understanding we are all interconnected, that we are part of a single Christhood, is not a new idea. It's not new in history. Many, many mystics have recognized and seen and understand how connected everything is, because it comes from a single divine source. And yet we have infinite ways of expressing ourselves and manifesting in the world. Chief Seattle from the Duwamish said that humankind has not woven the web of life. We are but one thread within it, and whatever we do to that web, we do to ourselves. All things are bound together and all things connect. We understand in unity the idea of oneness. And what I see from my Reverend Lisa perspective is, on one side of the coin, you have the spiritual perspective of oneness, where there is no division. And then on the other side of the coin, you have oneness manifesting in the world as interdependence. Interdependence, recognizing that we all bring something of equal value and contribute something of equal value to the whole of which we actually are as a single living organism. And that's what life really is. And from a unity perspective, the work, well, let me put it this way. I was thinking again of the Declaration of Independence and how that was the freedom and liberation from a pretty tyrannical and corrupt monarchy. It ended the rule of being under a corrupt monarchy. And then in unity, we look at it as an individual spiritual experience. Our practice is to do our inner work to release and free ourselves from the rule of our own tyrannical and corrupt error beliefs and our false ideas of lack and separation. That's our inner work. And that is an individual work. And that moves us to a place of becoming free and independent to express who we are in our own unique way as an extension of God in this world. And that's the first step. And that's an incredible step. And that's where most of us have done our work. But I see as we have matured through that, the next level of maturity is to recognize how interdependent we are. And what that calls for then is really to start the work of connecting with greater and ever widening circles of other. Those we have not connected with. Those we haven't really included in our circle of compassion and empathy. And this is compassion and empathy are the hallmarks of living from a recognition of how interdependent we are, how connected we are. Thomas Merton, he was a theologian and a mystic in the 1950s. He wrote that the whole idea of compassion is based on a keen awareness of the interdependence of all living beings, which are all part of one another and all involved in one another. So I believe we're at a stage where we're awakening to our own power and liberation that we've discovered individually and have been able to find how as an individual to thrive as spiritual beings expressing in a material world. And now we have the opportunity to continue to expand our consciousness and our awareness and see how we can do that work at the level of the race consciousness, of our community consciousness. I think this is an incredible time to be alive. It's incredibly challenging. It is probably often a little frightening, maybe a lot frightening, because we're being pushed through this new birth of a greater sense of freedom, a more expanded sense of who we are, but it's grounded in the same spiritual principles of knowing there is but one God, one creator, one source of all life. And that is eternal, all good, all light, all love, and that we are an extension of that. But not only are we an extension of that, so is each and every living being. And the more we open our hearts and embrace and recognize that beyond the limits of where we have held it before, the more we will come into recognizing and manifesting a true sense of liberation and freedom and equality for everyone, everywhere. And that's my dream. I'd like to close with a quote from I don't have that quote. Give me 1 second, because I want to close with a quote from, I believe it's Emily Cady. Charles Fillmore from Keep It True Lent, in which he writes, "Divine love sees no distinction among persons. It is principle, and it feels its own perfection everywhere. When we let the truth of being into our hearts and pull down the walls of separation, we shall feel the flow of infinite love that Jesus felt." Beautiful. Well, thank you for being here with me on this beautiful day of celebrating independence and interdependence. It's been my joy to be here with you. Namaste.
Oh, would you read that last quote again?
The quote?
Yes.
Sure. Hang on. Divine love sees no distinction among persons. It is principle, and it feels its own perfection everywhere. When we let the truth of being into our hearts and pull down the walls of separation, we shall feel the flow of infinite love that Jesus felt. It's from Keep It True Lent. Did that help?
Thank you, Reverend Lisa. And
Yes,
thank
thank
you,
you.
Don,
Thank you.
for asking. I appreciated hearing it a second time as well. Now we're going to close our service portion with the peace song, and we'll go into the prayer for protection, but stick around for the cafe.
Yes, and in the peace song, it does talk about how we're one family. We're all together with each other, which it kind of ties in with that idea of community, I think. So I'm going to sing it first, stay on mute, but for the second time, we're going to be off mute, but we'll get there in just a moment. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator. Family are we. Let us walk with each other in a perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. What I want you to do, it's going to be really off because of Zoom lag, but it doesn't matter. Everyone come off mute and we're going to all sing together. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the way it was meant to be, with God as creator. Family are we. Let us walk with each other in a perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
Yay!
Wow, that was great.
Again, I'm learning the controls. Oh, Billy, still the prayer for protection.
Oh, of course.
Dun, da, 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 da.
All right. So I invite you to join me in our prayer for protection. Thank you. So please speak these words with me. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us.
The power of God
protects us.
The power of God
Presence
protects us.
God
The
God
presence
is
of
over us.
God
wherever we are.
wherever
God is.
God
is.
is.
And
All
so
is well.
it
And
all
is.
is well.
Thank you.
Well,
All's well. Thank you.
thank you, Reverend Lisa. So we are going to stop live streaming. Goodbye, live stream.